Okay, good morning. My name's Clive Smith and I work for Temenos. I'd just like to thank you for this morning's attendance. And I hope you learned something of interest in the next 30 minutes. I'll try and make sure that I keep to the 30 minutes so that we can move forward smoothly. So what I'm going to be talking about this morning is a piece of software called the User Experience Platform. And don't worry, I'll explain what that is a bit later. It's worth saying that Temenos is known as the banking software company because it sells lots of different types of software to banks. Here in Vietnam, we have 14 customers who are using our core banking platform. We have software for wealth management. We have software for business intelligence. But underpinning all our new channels applications, and I'll talk about them, is this user experience platform. So, start at the very highest level. There is a lot of change going on in technology. There are a lot of new devices coming to the market. There are, in fact, in Vietnam, I believe, 3 or 4 times more phone subscribers than there are people with bank accounts. So it's quite clear that there's a lot of change in the technology, and there's a lot of sense of technology is going to be key as we move forward. The World Bank is very focused on helping 2.5 billion people around the world have access to banking services. But at the bottom of the slide, it's worth seeing the quote from Bill Gates that I think I should put in every presentation to bankers. Banking services are definitely essential. Maybe banks aren't essential. And this plays towards the challenges you have from people like Tesco that were in the previous presentation. But let's carry on a little bit about the technology changes. Because my sense and my experience in talking to people over the last couple of years is that most banks are struggling to keep up with diversity around iPhones, Android phones, tablets, iPads, but those devices in the middle of that screen. All the other devices on that slide actually exist. I'm not so sure about the translucent hand phone. I think that's just a mock-up or a prototype. But everything else has already been released into production somewhere in the world. There's absolutely no chance that your IT department will be able to keep up with the rate of change among the devices that are out there in the marketplace. It would be lovely if everybody would just use one type of mobile phone, but they're not. There's going to be many different devices that they use to interact with business services and banking services. There we go. Technology doesn't really matter very much unless it changes the behavior of people. But it's quite clear that mobile access to the internet has changed the behavior of people. The standard comments about becoming more sophisticated and demanding and wanting to consume products and services across all channels. Well, the reason is very simple. People, particularly people perhaps under 35, use technology all day, every day, at work, at home, at the weekends. At work, they're interacting with ERP systems or dashboards or email or business intelligence systems. When they get home, or on the bus going home, they'll be SMSing people. At home, they'll often use Facebook or Twitter. They'll be watching TV, and TV in some countries is becoming connected to the internet as well. So at all times, they expect to be connected. They expect to be able to do what they want when they want to do it. And this isn't just affecting the young or the educated. It's affecting everybody. In America, there is increasing evidence that even the high net worth individuals want to move towards a model of relationship banking where they are given more help, more tools to decide what they are going to do, rather than having advice from a relationship manager. Nearly everybody wants to be able to use mobile phones and tablets to interact with their internet banking environment. And as I said earlier, I think it's going to be absolutely fundamental for reaching out to the currently unbanked people that you do it through mobile agents or mobile devices. I don't think you can have the same business model for those unbanked people in rural areas that you have for the urban middle class. So it's absolutely, not only are there lots of changes in technology, all those changes have been adopted and used by your customers. But it's an opportunity as well. You can read the slides as well as I can, but basically mobile commerce is growing between 4 and 7 times faster than e-commerce, and e-commerce is growing 2 to 3 times faster than the underlying retail activity. So it's the fastest growing area of consumer interaction with the business and banking services that they want. It's also important to understand, as the previous presenter talked about, not supplying these abilities will cause discontent among your user base and will create churn. In a survey, I think it was done by Accenture, 12% of customers were looking at changing their banking provider, and that's up from 7% in the year before. So people are becoming more willing to churn away from their existing bank. And one of the key reasons is customer experience, and a large part of that is access to the services when they want to use them, on the device they want to use them, in a way they want to use them. It's also a threat. These are all US numbers, but I've always observed that what happens in the US happens somewhere else within 2 to 3 years. And what they're seeing in the US is that online sales are creating a decrease in activity in the branches. 75% for mortgages, 100% for auto loans. People are getting more used to doing business online, are happier to do business online, and it is beginning to impact the volume of business done in the branches. And forecasts are forecasts, but a lot of people are beginning to assume that 35% of banking services will be provided by either niche online players or non-banking players like Tesco and Coles and the others. And in case you think this is all happening in America and somewhere else, I thought I'd put together a few examples of what's happening here in Asia this year. A simple one, probably not heard of it. ANZ released a mobile corporate banking application in 2012 in Australia. And even ANZ were amazed at how much people adopted that and how quickly they adopted that. So in 2013, they started rolling it out in Asia. Citibank have rolled out to 5 countries in Asia, and these are the first 5 countries in the world, their new ATM or Smart Branch initiative, which is based around providing more services through the ATM as part of their new branch initiative. The ones at the bottom I think are fascinating. China Merchant Bank have reached an alliance with the company Tencent that owns WeChat and are providing banking services across a chat network. I mean, WeChat has 300+ million subscribers in China, and they're the sort of people that spend 5 hours a day on WeChat. Do you think it's important to give banking services across that channel? China Merchant Bank is the largest private bank in China, and that's a coup as far as I'm concerned. Alibaba was mentioned again by the previous presenter, but I have some statistics. They, in their first month, remember they only opened this banking service in October. In their first full month, they took $3 billion of deposits. They opened 2.5 million new accounts. It's an amazing challenge for the banks in China. Jack Ma has stood up and publicly said the state banks in China only serve the government-related banks. They provide a lousy service to all the SMEs and all the consumers in China, and we are going to go after those customers. A tremendous innovation that is all about transforming the way you communicate, the channels you use to reach out to your customers. To get back to the technology, the solutions that I'm representing here today, the first thing you have to realize is if you keep doing more of the same, if your IT department tries to support this diversity by writing new applications for it, you will fail. I mean, there will be too much to do if you keep doing it the way you've been doing it over the last 5 years. So, historically, you've always had two choices when you want to create a new application for a new channel. You either build it yourself or you buy a package. I love the chaos reports. If any of you have not been to the Standish Consulting chaos reports, Google it and go and read it. For 25 years, they've been monitoring the success or failure rates of IT development projects, and it is scary. Something like 70% of projects over a certain size, I think it's 10 man-years, either fail in terms of not delivering the functionality, or being very late, or costing far more money than the users wanted it to. If you've never been and read the chaos reports, do it. But basically, bespoke development is very high risk. It always takes a long time, and you often end up with dependencies that you don't really want on either individuals or groups within your organization. And one of the key things about channel applications is this isn't like putting in a core banking system where you're going to live with that system for 10 to 15 years. You will probably have to replace your channel systems that you build today within a 2 to 3 year lifespan. In America, people are refreshing their channel applications every 18 months. Again, if you carry on doing what you've done for the last 5 to 10 years, you'll fail in this new environment. So maybe you should buy a package. Well, maybe that's part of the solution. But a lot of the packages out there are from the large vendors. I obviously can't name names, but I'm willing to talk offline out by our stand. A lot of the large vendors have produced mobile commerce platforms that have relatively limited mobile banking capabilities and functionalities. And it puts a lot back onto you to develop the specific functionality you need. So you end up doing basically a bespoke project anyway. The smaller vendors, and there are certain countries like Taiwan, for example, where there are 2 or 3 companies that provide mobile banking channel applications for $100,000, all in, implementation, everything. Brilliant, but it's very limited, it has no reuse across other channels, it's hard-coded, you never have any ownership of the abilities and capabilities in there. So again, we can talk about it again offline, but there are limits to what you can do with packages. So what is this UXP approach? The UXP is basically a third way, and it's a third way based on the fact that standards have emerged over the last several years, but for the first time in my career in IT, you are beginning to get to the point where you can reuse and plug and play capabilities that you develop. So the UXP is basically a development and deployment platform that deals with all the complexity of different devices, different languages, different brands, different users, this whole mass of other third-party applications like social media that you probably want to react with, and the fact that within your infrastructure there are core banking retail systems, there are probably other systems like private wealth that you want to interact with. The UXP provides the ability to integrate and develop applications in an environment that is complex. I'm not going to talk about technology very much, but you need to understand there's a development environment, there's an environment for managing development, and there's a deployment environment. So it's a total life cycle of the application. Again, the only thing that's important on this is, well, the only two things I would say is think Lego. You've got to the point now where you can begin to plug and play components across projects. So if you integrate into a back office system for your internet portal and you want to build a mobile application, you just reuse the integration layer from the portal. The other thing that's worth mentioning is it's 2 to 5 times faster than coding. I'll talk about why and how another time. It deals with the complexity of devices, languages, browsers, different users. It integrates social networks. Our current product doesn't have any form of financial planning. But it again took us 3 days for a customer to integrate a third-party financial planning application and make it look exactly the same in terms of user experience as the previous slides I showed you if you're using this social media capability. So in half an hour you have to skip a lot of the detail, but I hope you follow the logic of what I'm saying. There's a lot of technology change. Consumers really want to use these devices to interact with you. They probably don't just want to fill in forms. They probably want to do it in ways that are different from the ways they have in the past. You'll never be able to keep up if you keep trying to code in HTML or JavaScript. You're going to need a more productive platform, and we are a provider of such a platform. So if you want to talk to us in a little bit more detail, we have a stand outside, and I'm here all day, and I'll be happy to talk.